Inside the halls of San Diego State University lies a program dedicated to storytelling and pursuing the truth. Welcome to Where You At, a podcast that takes you inside the work of alumni for the School of Journalism and Media Studies at San Diego State. Our goal is to show the success of our alumni, inspire students with the stories, and connect students and alums on a pathway to journalism success. And now, here's your host, Josh Suchon.
This week on the Where You At podcast, we are remaining on campus. Yes, and the topics for this week, student journalism and a year in review of the most important news stories from this academic school year. Our guest is Madison Cadena. She has just a very brief time left as the editor-in-chief of the Daily Aztec. Madison, as a former editor-in-chief myself, congratulations on surviving the year and welcome to the Where You At podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and just chat all things student journalism, our times as EICs, and what's to come.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's just start with this. How would you sum up your year when you think about what you thought it was going to be roughly 9 months ago, 10 months ago? How would you sum up what it was like for you leading the staff of student journalists?
That's a great question. It started off about, honestly, like I'd say a year ago today-ish. I was hired 2 weeks from now, and then I kind of didn't hear anything because unfortunately something happened with our advisor. So it's kind of like ghosted, and I was like, do I still have the position? So then I had to do like 15 interviews, and I had to hire the e-board all within 3 days because I wanted it announced at our annual banquet. So I would say I could tell I was in for a lot at that point, but from then on it went smooth sailing. I think that was kind of one of the rougher patches, but yeah, fall semester was pretty intense at first. We decided to cut the print issue as well, trying to take a load off of us, I would say. And all of my team was super on it. So we're an online completely paper now. And then I would say we all kind of got the groove in the spring semester. And then it was just like it was nothing. It was easy. It was just part of the routine at that point.
Well, especially since things change so much, and you mentioned there's no longer a print edition. For people who are listening to this who may not be up to speed with all the different changes, explain where you get published, what other social media channels you use, what multimedia different things that you're doing. Give us the overview. When we hear Daily Aztec and it's no longer this print newspaper, what are the different forms of the Daily Aztec? Yeah,
we put every single story out online on our website, so thedailyaztec.com. And then we also will mainly try and post almost everything on social media as well, specifically Instagram, and then Facebook, and then Twitter, sometimes not as much, or X, sometimes not as much. Sometimes we have some multimedia go out. That's what I really wanted to do this semester. Unfortunately, it was a little bit more difficult. I wanted to have weekly reels. So we do still, I want to say, have some, but it's not as much face time in it, and I wish there was more. But that's kind of what we're pushing out as well. And then we have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Sunday.
In terms of tracking how much people are reading all the different stories that you write, I'm a dinosaur in the 90s. I'd walk around campus and I would just see who's holding the newspaper. Mm-hmm. I would see when they're in the bathrooms, when they're in the classrooms, when they're in the trash, how often people are reading them all over the place. How much are you able to get a sense of who's reading these stories and what stories people care the most about, and even what devices they're reading these stories on?
It's really, really nice because you could see exactly how many views each story gets, whether it's on WordPress, which is where we run our website. You could see which has the most stories, which has the most views. And then within each section too, exactly how many. We actually had a story get like 40, I want to say, 1,000 views on it because it was about Ashton Gentry, who's the Boise State football player who was amazing. So that's kind of funny that it went super crazy and he was just named in it a little bit. And then Instagram also has perfect analytics that you could see who's following you that looked at it, who's not following you that looked at it, who's a guy and who's a girl. But yeah, just looking at all the analytics is really, really cool to see it's not necessarily what we want to put out more. It's just how can we tweak our pitches a little bit to more so get to our student audience, because that's majority of what we're trying to go for. But device-wise, you can't exactly see, not that I know of, exactly what device they're on.
All right. Well, regardless of what got the most views, I always think it's interesting. What was the biggest story from a student perspective, campus perspective? What would you look back on and say this was the story, or these were the main stories during your tenure as editor-in-chief?
The first thing I think of is Halloween. I don't know if you remember, possibly saw anything about Halloween. Last year we had a fire, a huge brush fire, and it just kind of took over. So we ended up writing a really quick piece on that. These are two super quick pieces, but we just wanted to get them out. And then later that day, I went to yoga. I was in yoga for an hour, and you have to put your phone away. It's like heated yoga. And I get a million texts, and I'm like, there's a shooting. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Breaking news does not happen very often like that on SDSU's campus. So 2 in one day was absolutely insane. So then we ended up writing the other piece just super fast. That was a crazy, crazy time.
Let's get into more of the details about that. Whether you were in the newsroom or at yoga and then in the newsroom, tell us about just the communication with you and your staff and how you put these stories together and how you look back on them with any, different levels of pride in what you were able to do.
Absolutely. So the fire story, it kind of started happening while I was on campus. There were these clouds coming up. I'm sure I could probably find a picture as well to show you. And I was just kind of like, what is going on? Me and my other friends. And then I was like, okay, I have a meeting with one of the advisors at the time for the Daily Aztec. He was just kind of like a managerial coordinator type thing, but he didn't really know too much journalistically. So I was just meeting with him. I met with him every other week. And then we were talking about it, and we were like, we need to get the story out now. And at that point, our 2 news editors weren't able to write anything. So then I was like, okay. He was like, you just need to do it. And I was like, yeah, I know, I just need to do it. So then I ended up walking home. I have a 15-minute walk. I live around 15 minutes from campus. So I walked home and I ended up writing the piece. And I was like, okay, this isn't something I'm super, super proud of. I wrote it with my managing editor, Bella, but we just wanted to get something out there. And we did it based on the facts that we saw. We did it based on other stuff. We get these texts from SDSU, these SDSU alerts. So a lot of our quotes, per se, came from those texts. And then I finished it, and then I'm like, okay, I had yoga. I went, put my phone away, and then I get out again, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's another story. And then there was kind of a little miscommunication on who was writing the stories, but there wasn't really anyone saying, I'll do it. So then I also just decided to write that story as well, because I just wanted to get something out there, get it on social media, let people know about what's happening on our campus. So I wrote that really quick and had my other journalistic advisor, Jesse Marks, look over it, and then we just published it and put it out there and got it out as quick as possible.
For those who don't know, what was the results of it? Tell us more about the shooting. Who was the suspect? Injuries, things like that. What was the long-term impact of this shooting?
Yeah, it was 3 minors actually. So we really don't know much about it. We sent someone to the court case, and they just couldn't really find out they couldn't find out any names, and they couldn't find out too much about it. But it involved 3 minors, I believe, but we couldn't get too much information on it.
Any other significant stories from this past year that stand out besides the 2 major stories there on Halloween?
Another big story is here on campus. We have a bunch of frats, and there was a frat who they were partying, they were drinking, and the video ended up circulating. There was a pledge who's rushing the frat. So he was in a tiger suit, and someone lit the tail on fire, and he was kind of almost engulfed in flames. So that was also a pretty big story, because he ended up having burns all over his body, and then he ended up suing his pledge mates. So that was another pretty interesting story. And we had a couple follow-ups on that. I think that same reporter actually wrote more follow-ups on that as well.
I feel like every year there was always something involving a fraternity who was doing something, and to different levels. Sometimes it involves a lawsuit. Sometimes it's mostly, harmless. Sometimes it's extremely harmful. I feel like just the whole fraternities doing something and getting in trouble is a timeless story that continues no matter what the decades are.
Oh, 100%. And it's never going to stop either.
Again, I was flashing back to what I was thinking at the end of my year as editor-in-chief. And I remember one of the thoughts that I had was that I never want to be an editor again. I do not want to be responsible for other people. I am sick and tired of people not doing their work or me having to answer for people not doing their stories. I just want to do my own work. I do not want the responsibility of overseeing people. What are your reflections on just what it means to manage people? You know, you mentioned, well, it was unclear who was going to write the story, so you just ended up writing the story yourself. Just reflections on managing people, especially when it's your fellow students who are all about the same age as you.
It was definitely a little awkward coming into it because I was kind of younger than some others. I'm technically a junior, but I'm graduating this year. So I'm graduating a year early. So I came into this at 19 and then I turned 20. So I've been 20 all year and there's some people older than me. So I was kind of like, this is also a little bit awkward. But then it ended up kind of fusing out and nothing really happened. So then once we kind of got into the groove of it, we all realized we're all students, and I like to think I'm not the strictest boss, not the meanest. I understand because I'm a student myself, and I've always loved kind of being a leader. It's kind of in my blood. I'm the oldest of four. I have three younger siblings, so I've always loved to lead. I love to help manage, but not necessarily in a micromanage way. Just lead people. I don't mind editing actually. I like it. I've learned how I could edit a story in around 2 minutes. In the beginning, it was not like that. It maybe took me 10, 15 minutes to edit a story, and I realized I was like, okay, I'm being a little bit too picky and tedious and looking through every single line. And I still do that now, but I've learned how to do it a lot faster, and it's definitely helped me a lot. It's when I have especially 5 arts and culture stories per se to edit that day, and I could just skim through it, and I'll tell them, I'll be like, okay, checking it right now, and then 2 minutes later I'll send a text and be like, just finished, and they're like, oh my god, you just finished already. And it's just, you kind of get used to it. But overall, I love managing. I don't know, I think I would maybe like to be back in a managerial position later in life. I feel like I love to lead, and I love to help people achieve a goal together.
Let's talk big picture, student journalism and just the state of student journalism. I mean, I think that it's a difficult time for journalists. There's more and more newsrooms that are closing. There's fewer and fewer jobs that are available. No matter what you do, there's people who just want to say that it's fake news. They don't want to believe what it is that you write, what you say, however you put it out, whatever platforms. Give us your big picture view of kind of the state of student journalism, but also just the energy, the passion that you and your fellow journalists or journalism majors are feeling these days.
Sometimes it's a little difficult, I would say, because it feels like sometimes no one's reading your work. But then there are stories where everybody reads your work and everybody's not per se praising it, but taking it in for themselves and understanding the meaning of why you wrote your story, whether it's for informing others of a potential dangerous situation or informing others of something fun, like our arts and culture articles. We put out a museum guide. It's just kind of all about the balance of everything. And it's just, I think all of our student journalists have so much passion into the projects they write about, whether it's sports, whether it is our graphics team. We try and put a graphic or photo out with we put a graphic or photo out with every single article that goes out, because we want something also visually pleasing, and they're killer too. They are student journalists as well. Who else? Even just our advertising team. They're killers too. We need them. They're kind of just in the back. You don't really think of them that much, but we truly do need them. But I think just overall there's so much passion that really does go into it, and I'm sure you could say the same for you and your team. When you were the the EIC, it's just everyone loves what they do.
One of my other biggest memories was at the very end of my year as editor-in-chief. I'll never forget this. And I'm just off campus. I'm ordering a sandwich. And the guy who's making the sandwich, he kind of looks at me and he goes, "You're the editor, right? Daily Aztec." And I was like, oh boy, what do we do now? Right? we had a lot of controversy during my year. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh gosh, what did we do this time? And he says, hey, so there was a classified ad in your paper that promised all of these great scholarships that nobody else knows about. And so I sent something in the mail. He's like, and I paid $80, and I was told that I was going to get thousands and thousands of dollars worth of scholarships that no one else knew about. And he said, I never heard anything. And I think he said that he had a friend who did the same thing. And when that friend did get something back, but it was clear that this was nothing special. And he said, I think that this is a scam. And I remember just thinking, first of all, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that somebody used the classified section of the Daily Aztec to try and scam students. And I was like hurt and angry. But I remember going back to the newsroom and asking people, like, has anybody else tried one of these things? Does anybody else like know anything? And then that's when just like your circle of knowledge of all the different friends start talking. Oh, I think I might have heard something. We ended up doing we devoted the entire front page story to this. Finally got somebody on the phone from this company who you could tell he was like lying through his teeth. I remember I got in touch with the Better Business Bureau about what their ratings were. Totally overhauled what we did with classified ads. I remember talking to like the UCLA Daily Bruin and other campus newspapers to find out if they had classifieds that were the same thing. And sure enough, this company, they were doing it up and down the entire state of California. And I remember going at the end, we did like multiple follow-up stories in my final few days. I remember just feeling like the ultimate pride in that. This is how journalism helps people, right? Like we didn't fully investigate this classified ad because how can you investigate everybody, right? But ultimately we stopped them. And so no one else is going to get scammed. Yeah. And I remember I was like, and I'm glad that something positive happened at the very end of the semester because there was so much drama throughout the year that reminded me, hey, this is ultimately what we do. There's times that people don't like what we write, but there's other times that we provide this service for people to let them know. And I don't know where I'm going with this question other than to say, is there any types of like feelings that you had, stories that you had that just reminded you of this is what it means to serve people journalistically?
That's a really good question. I honestly would say either the fire stories, or the fire story and the shooting stories, because I think I was so proud that we got it out as fast as we did. Sure, the other news organizations, some of them beat us to it, but we were able to get it out in a quick manner ourselves, which is something that we were struggling with all semester. So I think I was really proud of that, of how much viewership it got, how many like kind of sends it got, likes it got. And I know that's not what it's about, but you could actually see that people were engaging with like your story and that people were actually listening and reading it. So that was really exciting to see. And I would say the same when I went to go cover the Mountain West basketball tournament. I did multimedia. I love multimedia. I want to end up in broadcast. But it was just so much fun. I love being in front of the camera and just I created a little reel. I don't know if you saw, and it was kind of, hi, I'm Maddie. Are you a fan of Aztec basketball? Come meet my team covering the tournament. And it just got so many views and likes, and I was just like, people are actually engaged in us. People want to see what we do. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's sports, whether it is news. People like to watch us, and it kind of clicked for me, and I was like, this is really nice that people are actually watching.
I'm glad you got to go to the Mountain West Conference tournament because some of my strongest memories are covering football, basketball games, the tournament, some of my lifelong closest friends, major bonding that happened over that time. Tell us more about what you want to do. You said that you're graduating early. You said that you like multimedia journalism. Let's manifest here, Madison. What are you hoping to do? What's next for you?
Yeah, so my dream goal in life is to become an on-air White House political news correspondent. That's the dream. Or I've also been thinking about another dream is going back and just becoming an anchor at my local news station at home. I'm from New York, so WABC 7. I grew up lifelong watching them. So that could be another dream as well. But just getting in front of the camera. And my next steps for me is yesterday, I actually just signed a contract for my first job. Starts June 4th. I'll be moving to Dayton, Ohio to become a full-time producer. So I'll be producing my own 4:00 show. So that'll be really, really exciting.
Congratulations. That is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell us the process of applying for the job. I think this can be very important for other students to learn how you learn about the job, how you applied for it, interviews. Give us the background on this.
It was a lot. I was really, as the time of spring semester started to dwindle down, I started freaking out a little bit more, thinking, oh my God, I don't have a job. Oh my God, I'm going to graduate without a job. That was the one thing I really wanted, to graduate with a job. And I was definitely freaking out for probably about a week. I was like, if I don't get a job, I'm moving home and I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to go to law school. That's what it's going to be. And in my heart, I was just kind of like, I love law as well. I would end up probably becoming like a media lawyer because I do enjoy media as well so much. But I wanted to be a journalist since 4th grade, and I couldn't give up on that. So I decided I need to start applying to even more jobs. And at that point, I had probably applied to like 20-ish, maybe around 15, 20 jobs. And then I was like, okay, let me apply to more. So what I did is I would be on LinkedIn and I would just look at everything that they had there. And it personally didn't matter to me because I know to be on broadcast, you got to end up somewhere small. Like you're not starting out in New York or San Diego on air as your first job, unless you're really gifted. I looked at kind of all the different media companies. So I would look at Tegna. I looked at like Disney, which is ABC, CBS, and then I also looked at Nexstar. And Nexstar had a lot of openings all across the country. So then it was kind of nice because I could like fill it out once and just kind of click again and reuse the application because it was the same thing anyway. So that was kind of nice. And I applied to like 20 maybe Nexstar jobs. Like I applied to a lot because I thought it didn't hurt to not do it. I mean, it didn't hurt to do it. So yeah, I ended up getting a call back from Dayton and then as well as San Diego for assignment desk, and then as well as a small station up in Burlington, Vermont. And I applied for associate producer at Dayton at the news station there, and he said, I actually want you for a full-time producer. So that was really, really exciting. I want you to fill the producer or the 4 p.m. producer spot. So, and then I had one over the phone interview. It was about like 40 minutes. And then he was like, okay, I'll give you another call again. And in that, I took a writing test, which was kind of unexpected. I wasn't expecting that at all. I was like, oh, I have to take another test again. And it was really funny because I thought I did so bad on that writing test. We had to do like 3 stories in an hour for like broadcast. And I was just like my mind, like I couldn't think. I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm struggling right now. And I was so worried. And I was like, oh my gosh, he didn't email me back like he said he. And I realized I was checking every single day. And that was Easter weekend. So that was just like, it just passed. I was checking every single day being like, oh my gosh, he didn't email me back. Like it must have been really, really bad. I realized I missed the email he sent me that Friday. I handed it in. And then I was like, oh my God, he actually emailed me back and he asked me to call again Monday. So then I set up a call with him again, and then he offered me the job on that Monday. So it's kind of a really fast turnaround, but super exciting.
Oh my goodness. That is rare to,
Yeah.
to leave college knowing exactly what you do. And you got, 6 weeks or so to plan to get out there and all of that.
Definitely. My mom and I are she's going to fly out, and I think we're going to make the drive from San Diego to Dayton because we love to travel. We love to explore new places. So we want to spend a day in each state that we've never been to.
Oh, that is excellent. Okay, a few more topics I want to get into. You mentioned the name Jesse earlier. Jesse Marks. He is the advisor for the Daily Aztec and KCR. This is a new position that was created. I remember when I first heard about this, when Temple Northrup told me about this, my heart sank and I was like, no. The Daily Aztec needs to be independent. We don't want no faculty. We don't want no advisors. And then I started to think about like how much more like the world has changed. And I started to think about advertising and started to think about, okay, the world's different. Tell us how it went having a faculty advisor for the first time and sort of like yeah, let's just start with that. How did it go this first year with the faculty advisor?
Yeah, it went awesome. I mean, I'm so grateful that he's there. Because I can ask any questions I want, really, whether it is about my new job or anything. And that's something that we never had. And it's something that every other school had because we went to this journalism conference in Minneapolis. It was like a collegiate ACP conference, and we actually got the funding to go. We applied for it through the school. And I realized Bella and we were there in like the little managers section of the conference. And everyone's like, yeah, like my student advisor, and then someone said, raise your hand if you have a student advisor. And we were the only 2 that didn't raise our hand. And we were like, ooh, like this isn't good. So thank goodness that Jesse came in because he's not he's not managing. I wouldn't say he's managing us. I am the manager alongside Bella of the Daily Aztec. And he's there just to provide help. He doesn't push us into doing anything we don't want to do. Sometimes I'll be like, I don't know what to do. He goes, it's your decision. And he truly lets it be my decision. And I really appreciate it because, listen, it could have been another person and they could have been trying to take over, but he's truly not. And it's really, really helpful to just be able to ask him any questions.
I feel like one of the most important things for Jesse is just helping the transition from one year to the next. You mentioned, what a scramble it was for you to put together a staff. I'm now flashing back to what it was like for me putting together a staff. And then like summertime comes and it's like everyone scatters and all of a sudden you come back and I was like, okay, what are we doing again? And so let's use that as a time to talk about, you mentioned Bella, she's going to be next year's editor-in-chief. Just tell us about just sort of the transitions that can happen now one year to the next.
Yeah, so the transitions, once you get everyone hired, you have to start kind of training everyone. So I had to do that last summer, and it was kind of a little unfortunate. I mean, not unfortunate, I was in Spain, but I didn't get an internship that summer, so I decided to travel there for solo for about a month and just kind of live there. But I would have to host these meetings at 11 p.m. or midnight, my time. So then I could get everyone on Pacific time to join me. So that was a little bit of a struggle at first, and then also just kind of getting people to come to the meetings. In my time as the broadcast live producer the previous year, we would have to go to a meeting every single week for majority of summer. And I was just kind of I kind of know a lot of this. Mm-hmm. And Bella and I decided that we didn't want to make one every single week. I mean, it's summer. It's important to understand, but it's also not that big of a deal because a lot of them do understand. We didn't hire them if they didn't write for us. They knew how the Daily Aztec works. So we just had 3 meetings throughout the summer with each different times available, kind of to go over whether it was AP style, how the managing actually works within the Daily Aztec. And I forget the final one. I think it might have been how to be a successful editor or something like that. So we just did that, and that transition went, I feel like I would say it went a lot smoother because people were a little bit more ready when coming in to the semester. But I think the transition that was a little bit hard is going from not writing to producing for our print issue, because at that point we still had our first day of school print issue that we wanted out for the first day of school. Mm-hmm. So we had to do everything before that. So that was definitely a little bit harder. So I think without that now, it'll be a lot nicer for Bella and Callista just to kind of focus. And it's not just going into it, going into it. It'll be more of a gradual going into it for them. So I think that'll be a lot better.
You mentioned Bella and Callista. Tell us a little bit more about who they are and what they'll be doing next year.
Yes. So Bella and Callista will be the editor-in-chiefs for the next year. Super excited. Bella was my managing editor this year, and she's graduating a semester early. So she'll be a co-editor-in-chief in the fall with Callista, and then Callista will just take on the full year. So she'll learn kind of the ropes a little more, which is super, super helpful to have someone there. And
then I also want to go back to, I wrote down the word advertisers when you mentioned that earlier. And I think maybe this can be a call to action in terms of, we were 100% completely financially independent of the university back in the 90s. This is when newspapers were in their glory days and people wanted to advertise in newspapers. Those days are gone now. Tell us about the advertisers that work for you now and basically the financial status of the Daily Aztec, as much as you know about KCR, and maybe what people can do if they want to get involved, if they do want to advertise, or if they do want to help out in some way in order to make sure that you guys have the resources to do your jobs properly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not technically allowed to know the funding. That's more so above me, especially since we moved to be a part of JMS. That's something that's kind of out of my hands, which is a little unfortunate. So I can't explain that here. But we do have an advertising team, two kind of salesmen or saleswomen. And they just sometimes will cold call. They'll put out. We get a lot of emails as well, and we just try and put out as many ads. Always looking for more, especially for our newsletter. We have a one headline ad kind of at the top, or if you want our we have social media too, which I would say maybe gets the most traction. And then we have our website as well. So if you're looking to advertise, email, I want to say it's advertising at thedailyaztec.com. And yeah, advertise with us. Get it out to the students.
Yeah, I know that I even, I'm part of the emails that go out. I think it's on Monday that has a few stories. And I know that at the bottom of there, whenever I click on it, there's something about like help student journalists, whether it's just like a donation that you want to do or whether it's equipment. Like what are some of the other things that the Daily Aztec needs right now from a resources standpoint so that you guys can continue to learn and put out great work?
I think just overall funding is a little bit difficult. Luckily, all of our we're very grateful for it. All of our not all of our staff members, but our editorial board is all paid. So they work 5 hours a week. So that's really, really nice because I know some other collegiate newspapers can't say the same and they just kind of do it to put it on their resume, which is also great. But it's very nice that we get paid. Yeah, I would just say funding to just keep us alive, honestly.
Is there a goal or a thought of trying to get back to a print edition, whether it's once a month, once a week? Is that ship like sailed and it's no longer coming back, or is there still a goal to maybe get back to a print edition?
That's a great question. I don't know what Callista and Bella think, but for me, we I think that ship has sailed. Mm-hmm. We only printed, I would say, around 2,000 copies. And we had an 80% pickup rate, which sounds relatively good, but we're on a campus of like 39,000 students. Mm-hmm. So compared to that and all the stress it was putting on our section editors, it almost felt like they were not doing their highest quality of work just because we needed to get it out for the print issue. And now we're able to put out stories that people are really, really proud of. And I think that's kind of, if I wouldn't personally bring it back because of the quality of stories I think we've put out.
For people who are not working for the Daily Aztec, but they hear this podcast and they go, I think I want to work for them. What should they know about who to contact, how to get involved in the Daily Aztec, and most importantly, like what are the sections that most need immediate help at the Daily Aztec?
Yeah. So you can apply to be on our team, be a staff writer with us. But it's just a Google form. And then you'll have to fill out a little AP style kind of quiz, but don't worry, I put a PowerPoint presentation with all the answers on it, just so you really shouldn't fail. And then after that, you'll kind of get an email saying, come join each section. Because you'll put which section you're interested in. I think our sections that need immediate help are our Mundo Azteca section. That could probably use a little more beefing up. What else? Sports is good. We initiated Beats this year. The sports editors, they did that. So that was really awesome. Our news team could always use more help, I think. Arts and culture they're a powerhouse. They're beasts. But we're always welcome to any more writers. We could definitely use more graphics people. If you're interested in graphics, they'll also help you out. They're great editors. Who else? Opinion is killing it too. Hannah, she's a powerhouse as well, but we could always use more writers there. Advertising, if you want to join the team. There's not really a team to join, but I'm sure
a team. Start the team.
I'm sure they could find something for you to do if you're interested in that. And then multimedia, I think could always use more. Definitely. Just get yourself in front of the camera. But yeah, I'd say that. Everything else is like social media is good. Oh, photo could definitely use more. If you're interested in photo, I mean, you could go shoot concerts and games, and who doesn't want to do that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, Madison, what else have I not asked that you would like to add before we wrap things up in terms of just whether it's the state of student journalism, whether it's like what you learned, or kind of leave an open floor to you about your year as editor-in-chief?
Yeah. Maybe I would say kind of be comfortable in the uncomfortable, especially journalistically, kind of push yourself to join. My mom actually pushed me to join the Daily Aztec. I didn't really, not that I didn't want to do it, but I was nervous. I was a freshman coming in from out of state across the country. And I was like, and I missed the first sports meeting. And they ended up actually pushing back the time, like 15, 20 minutes, because I had class just for me. They hadn't even met me yet. And that's kind of how I knew. I was like, okay, like that was really, really nice. I have to stay now. And I just ended up falling in love with it, writing, reporting, and yeah, just putting myself out there and applying for things and joining things that you maybe otherwise wouldn't have joined. But yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what Madison said in terms of get started as soon as you can. It took me my first full year. I can't even tell you the number of times that I walked past the Daily Aztec saying, today's the day I'm going to walk in there and introduce myself and get started. And it didn't happen for about a year and a half before it finally did. And lifelong friends to this day. A lot of people who worked at the Daily Aztec who had no desire to work in journalism. They just wanted a fun place to hang out and meet people, and we're proud of the work that we did. Some people were not planning on becoming journalists, and then they did because they enjoyed it so much. Just the whole spectrum of people who did it to get the experience, and then they have taken those skills and continued on with them. And so, I just think that it's just such a great place. So many just friendships, relationships, marriages, everything that have come from the Daily Aztec, which is just super cool. And, as one editor-in-chief to another, again, congratulations, you survived.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Her name is Madison Cadena. She's the outgoing Daily Aztec editor-in-chief. My name is Josh Suchon. And as for this podcast, we go on hiatus during the summer break. So this is the final episode of this semester. It has been such a wonderful semester. It began with Jesse Marks explaining back in the fall why he was hired, who he is, what the plans were. And now we end this school year with Madison breaking down how it all happened. So thank you for listening. And again, we will be back next fall with more editions of the Where You At podcast. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Where You At podcast. This is Devin Watley from the class of 2021. Thanks to Martine Marine for creating the music you're hearing right now, and Alex Piscatelli for her work on the podcast name and artwork on social media. And a reminder to SDSU alums, we really want to know where you at. Tell us about your career. Get involved in the school. There's many ways you can do this, from donating your time or money, mentoring students, to even speaking in classrooms, in person, or on Zoom. Your work can help us grow the program and create more opportunities for our students to succeed. Again, thanks for listening. Subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. Recommend us a future guest. And go Aztecs.